Hey folks, this is a tutorial for a posture we call the rolling pin. The first set of details to discuss are all about the support of your client. Not enough people spend enough time discussing and refining the support for your client, so that's what we're going to do to start with. I've got some pillows and blankets here, but if you've got yoga bolsters, they're even better because the density is higher than things like pillows. But if you don't have yoga bolsters, you can make it work with blankets, pillows. Just make sure that you've got plenty of them. In setting up the support for your person, you want to make sure that especially the lumbar spine has some really generous support. Not everyone can sit comfortably in a cross-legged position, so even before you install your additional props for lumbar support, you might actually have someone sit up on a series of blankets or pillows in order to lift their pelvis up a little bit higher and therefore be able to maintain a little bit more of either a flat spine or a little bit more of their natural lordotic curve. Once you've got them set up comfortably in a cross-legged position or in a position where their legs are out in front, then we start to talk about installing the props. So for the use of the props, you really want to make sure that you're focusing your attention in the lumbar region. That's really important because the longer you stay here, the more their posture will start to relax and they will end up driving more flexion in the lumbar spine just by relaxing and sitting back into the support you're providing them. That's where it becomes important to make sure that most of the props are centered in the lumbar spine. A lot of the time, we see in Thai massage people using props to support the entire back evenly. And the challenge with an even support is that it doesn't focus the lumbar region for the support. If you wanted to keep more space between you and them, you could keep one as a full back support and then the others in the lumbar region like this, okay? Or you could turn them all on their side to really focus that support in the lumbar region. The next piece about the support is when we come up into our warrior stance here, oftentimes we either send our knee in really close to the props, and in doing so, the back quads here are doing a lot of work or more work than they need to be in order to support our client. Or what otherwise happens is we create the distance for us to get more relaxation in this back leg, but then what happens is this little window of space is left. And that little window of space means that people can oftentimes fall more back into flexion of the lumbar spine, and in doing so, it defeats the purpose of having the props in the lumbar region. So, my recommendation for that space is you fill it with another prop so that you can have full contact with the prop and also reduce the amount of work in that support leg by making sure your pelvis is in front of your knee. That sets people up to be here for a considerable amount of time, making sure that they're as comfortable as possible in this seated position. One thing that a lot of teachers of Thai manual therapies will tell you to do here, once you've got the support, this outside leg of the warrior leg, they will get you to drape the arm over the top of your leg. Now, we do not teach that. The only thing that we do is we encourage you to make light contact with the outside of their arm, and that provides the same amount of support without the complications of having the arm draped. When the arm is draped, especially if you are a tall practitioner, if you're taller than your client, what you'll notice is that lifts the shoulder up a little bit, and especially the height of the leg pushes against the underside of the arm. When that happens, you end up pressing against the vasculature of the arm that feeds the rest of the arm all the way down to the hand. If you're only there 1 minute or so, that's fine. But once you start staying longer than about a minute, the rest of the hand and the arm starts to get that tingly sensation, and it can go numb. And it's unnecessary. You gain no additional benefit from having the arm draped than you do from simply having light contact with your leg on the outside of the arm. And so because a good portion of our treatment is focused on comfort and ease, there's no real reason to drape the arm at all because you've got someone supported with your leg here. Once you encourage the head to tilt towards one side, the point of this leg is actually, if your person falls asleep or starts to drift off, you've got them supported and you've caught them, okay? If you have your leg out here, they might fall a little bit before you catch them. So just make light contact and then you've got them as supported as you need to have them. Once you've got the support in place, then we get them prepared for the massage work. To do that, we want to combine some lateral flexion of the cervical spine, a little bit of flexion, and a little bit of rotation. Because as we're working in here with our forearm, we want to be able to get the muscles that we're focusing on, the levator scapulae and the upper trapezius, with a little bit more length to begin with, so that our pressure is a little bit more effective when we apply it. So the combining of lateral flexion, flexion, and rotation, instead of just taking the head to the side in lateral flexion. With that little combination, you get the upper trapezius and the levator scapulae more lengthened, and then when you apply your pressure, it becomes more effective. Now that we've got them all positioned, it's time to make our first contact, and we utilize the more proximal region on our forearm. So we're not going in directly with the tip of the elbow, we're going in with the more proximal region of the forearm. That's going to create a situation where it's the most efficient for you to give, and it's the most effective in terms of delivery of weight. When we place our forearm, we want to be just superior to the spine of the scapula, and we want a little bit of a posterior tilt on our forearm so that we're getting more of the fibers of levator scapulae as we sink into this. You position the forearm nice and close to the neck as well, and you start with your palm facing down. Now, a lot of people will do this with a lot of speed, and the way that I teach it is to go incredibly slow, especially for the first touch. You want to try and gradually apply some weight by tipping forward and down. And you want to try and respond to the feedback of the tissue. So as you sink in, you want to try and feel where the muscle tissue starts to resist you. And then you pause at that point. And you wait for the tissue to give you a little bit more space. And that's when you start to provide your rolling pin. And all it is a roll from the palm facing down to the palm facing up, or the movement of supination of the forearm. In doing so, we're very slowly moving laterally along the muscle fibers. Once you get to the end of that roll, release and repeat. You might start again from the beginning, or you might start again from where you finished that first roll. Sinking in, get the weight first, and then we gradually roll our way laterally. Now we're always on muscle tissue. We're going laterally along the upper trapezius fibers towards the acromioclavicular joint, but we never quite make it to the acromioclavicular joint. Sometimes after a few touches, someone's head will make its way back up, so you just can re-establish that original position and repeat. For a lot of people, it's especially nice to spend a good amount of time around the superior angle of the scapula. So in nice and close to the neck, because that's where the insertion of the levator scapulae muscle is. And a lot of us need some good attention on the levator scapulae muscle. As we do this, we move really nice and slow. There's no rush. The slower we go, the better the effect that we have on the tissue is. If you do use the more distal portion of your forearm, so if you use the portion of the forearm closer to the middle, what you're going to find is that your arm has to do a lot more work to maintain this angle. And so it becomes much less efficient for you to give the technique this way. It becomes more work, you end up shaking more, building more heat, and it won't be as relaxing for you to give, and therefore as relaxing to receive as if you use close to your elbow. After a good amount of time here, I usually spend between 3 to 5 minutes for the rolling pin. I will then sweep out. Remember, there's no such thing as in between touches, so we try to keep our sweeping nice and slow as well. And then you might just give a little shoulder squeeze. Remember, nothing fast, all very slow and consistent. So there you have it. That's how we do the rolling pin at Navina. Give it a try and see what you think, even if some of the details are new to you, and let me know below if you have any questions or thoughts.